Hello, 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 everyone. How's everyone doing? Some familiar faces. You're not in the office today, Hayes.
No,
Or are you in the office?
yeah, I had my roofer didn't fucking properly secure the drain on the flat roof. He got stuck in the stack, and so we had a sewer backup on the second floor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You should just write a journal of like all the bad things that happen to you.
Dude, it's been like a shit show of the past 2 months. It's just been one after the next after the next with this home reno. It was like a fucking disaster. And this was a roof that was done like 2 years ago, so it just fucking came loose, I guess, in a storm. And
Hectic. Okay. Well, how long is it going to be until they get that fixed?
I pulled it out the stack today. I did that one myself because I figured it out when the guy passed the snake gate last night.
Oh.
But yeah, so
Hayes, you should have just got Jay to come do it.
I know. Fuck it. Jay won't drive that far.
Tell him he has to. You'll buy him beers.
Yeah, yeah. 6 hours on the 401 is never fun.
And make sure he does all the work himself, right? Like he's got to get back on the tools. You can't send a team.
Send a service tech.
Yeah, that's the perks of being in PFC, right? Special treatment.
Oh fuck! I wish.
Well, how's everyone doing? If you don't mind starting putting like green, yellow, or red, just put it in the chat. Just want to see, just do a quick little check-in. I know busy season's on its way for many of you, so I'm sure there's quite a lot of prep work going into that. Sweet. Just let some other people join. Give it a few minutes. Ooh. All right, yellow. What's making you feel yellow, Sheldon?
Just still trying to get my numbers dialed in. Dealing with the inflation right now. I mean, it probably happened to you guys too. Fuel went up 10 cents a liter overnight.
Yeah, that's not fun. How's everyone else feeling? It's only an orange and a yellow. I'm assuming, is everyone else okay? Everyone's a green? That's deep. Yep. Okay, cool. What do colors mean? It's just like how you feel, right? Like green is you feel good, happy. Red is you're in crisis, and orange is somewhere between. Couple of oranges. What's making people feel orange today?
200K in eight accounts receivable.
It's a lot.
I know. I've been chasing it. Yeah. No.
Have you put? I mean, are you earning interest on that?
Not yet. That's the next invoices I'd send out on QuickBooks once it's finally fucking set up.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
We threatened somebody one time. We're just like, hey, so we sent them an invoice bill. So if you don't pay the other bill within 6 days, this invoice is going to stick. And they paid in 2 days.
I had one this week that I threatened a collection on, even though we had no apparent effort for it and got the bill paid in full. So
nice. Good job.
Sometimes you just got to be the bad guy behind the keyboard. It works. I mean, I had an attorney lined up for it, but I wasn't gonna pursue it if I didn't need to.
It's like, you don't want to do this, but I will.
They do it to you, you might as well do it to them. Don't make your house payment. I guarantee they'll come after you.
What's a house payment?
Naomi, why are you feeling orange today?
I think just still trying to figure some structures out, trying to figure the finances out, how to, I was trying to get into check the level and see where we're at, like as we're going along with our costs on these projects, where are we at profit wise? Like, are we, because we just hired a new employee in November, and before we had, when we had employees, we were doing a lot bigger jobs. We were doing like restoration of the envelope of apartment buildings and decks and all that stuff. So they were really big. They were really big projects. So now that we're in residential right now, we're trying to figure out, you know, with this employee, are we pricing high enough? And yeah, I think Leroy, as I was telling you before, money is a different language to me because I grew up dirt poor. So yeah, just trying to figure that stuff out. And I guess I do have a question for at some point, if you want me to ask now, or about banking. Okay. When you guys are running projects, multiple projects, are you running out of one main bank account? Do you have multiple bank accounts? I've been stumbling through this for a little bit. Tom really wants to have separate bank accounts, but as he recently learned, you know, you got to pay for those bank accounts. So there's an extra charge and all that stuff. So that's sort of my question, is what is the ideal way to operate?
Cool. That's a good question. And I know, you know, Profit First, the book recommends, I think you have like 5 bank accounts, you know, one for profits, one for deposits, one for payroll. You know, that method is, it's great, but it adds a lot of extra burden from an administrative perspective, right? And all the costs associated with that. Effectively, you know, when you add more bank accounts, you're also doubling the bookkeeping, which adds, you know, even more strain. And if you're paying your bookkeeper hourly or whatever, it can actually increase your charges. Now, a good bookkeeper or accountant, if you've set up your reporting properly, you can actually just pull those numbers out of your balance sheet, right? So if there are, you know, if you follow like the level chart of accounts, which I can run through again a little later, you can actually set up reporting to see like, okay, well, you know, what are my profits? What are my, you know, what are customer deposits and so forth. But I would say, right, like you should be running at least off a credit card, right? Like I know some people don't like credit cards and it's not ideal, but a credit card improves your cash flow, right? Like if I have to pay for something today, I can pay it on credit and only have to pay it 30 days later. It just means that cash outflow happens, you know, at a later date. So that can actually improve your cash flow by using a credit card, but be very careful with that. Obviously, make sure that you're paying it on time. An operational bank account at the very least, yes. And in the business name, it shouldn't be your personal bank, your credit card that you're using to run through the business. Commingling is just a recipe for disaster. But another bank account that's actually really nice to keep, and I sort of recommend it from time to time, is just a profit bank account, right? You know, say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my sales for the month. I'm going to take 5% of my sales and I'm just going to transfer 5% into this account every month. And now you've got a little bit of a cash flow reserve that has profits in it. If you go through a down cycle, you can pull on that. It is helpful just to have like one profit account, but to break it down into, you know, payroll, deposits and all that sort of stuff, it can get a little tricky. If you are worried about, you know, using deposits on other jobs, you can set up another deposit account to manage that. That's also possible. But then again, also some jobs you have to set up an account in escrow, right? So like that's a different scenario. But I would recommend like no more than 4 bank accounts. You can get by with 4. 3 or 4, and one of those is a credit card, right? So
Thank you.
yeah, and try and get a bank account that you know where are you located, Naomi?
Just outside of Vancouver, BC.
Okay, so yeah, like go with one of the big 4 or 5 banks. Try avoid Scotiabank. It doesn't really work well with QuickBooks Online.
Yeah.
Or TD's fine. Those are pretty good.
We have a Coast Capital, and I just don't find it's actually very expensive to run business accounts through there. And I've been trying to convince Tom to move over to RBC for quite a while. They do offer a lot better options and just running rates and stuff. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay.
Cool. Any other questions? Who's got some questions? If you've got questions, drop them in the chat box. And we can dive into this. You can also earn points. Adam's putting there, that's also help with a credit card. So what else is keeping people up at night from a financial perspective?
I got a question for you, Leroy.
Hey, what's up, Michael?
How you doing?
Getting yourself?
Good. So sorry, I'm driving.
Not a problem.
I'm having trouble. Okay, so we're using the Level app.
Yeah.
And you know, as far as entering bills and receipts into there, it's just I'm having trouble with the flow.
Okay.
You know, so as far as because I'm getting invoices through email, and I get invoices through the mail, and then some stuff's automatically taken out of our bank account. So it's just a lot of stuff coming in different directions. And then, I'm getting the bills paid on time, but I'm not I don't have the discipline to put them in the Level yet,
Yeah.
So I didn't know if there's a step-by-step way I should do that. Maybe it would make more sense to me. I can kind of get on top of it.
Yeah. The best way to do it, especially for receipts and stuff like that, is to just snap a photo and upload it at the time of purchase, right? It literally takes 30 seconds. You've got to be disciplined on that habit. So as soon as you load the truck or whatever the case is, just put the receipt on your lap, take a photo, upload it to Level, and then you're done, right? That saves you so much time. And if you can train your staff to do that, it's a game changer. Alternatively, we have just released the Level shoebox, and I can give a quick demo of that. Let me just see if I've got a setup for that. So basically, let me just get set up for this quickly. I'll give you a quick demo of this. So where's the Zoom screen? I'm gonna share this. I already have one set up here. So basically in Level now, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. In Level now, we've actually set up a shoebox, right? And you have a dedicated email for this shoebox. Basically, if you're getting invoices emailed to you from a supplier, what you can do is you can just forward it to this email address, but you can also, when you forward it, you can also include in the body of the email any notes that pertain to this expense. Like maybe it belongs to a specific job, right? So you can add in the notes, this goes to framing, or this belongs to this project. When you forward that email to the shoebox with the attachment, it's going to automatically upload it to Level, and all you have to do is assign it to a job. Now, what's great with this is because we're reading, the notes section, you could even use purchase orders. I mean, you could CC you could CC this email when you're making a purchase order, and adding it to a purchase order sub project is one way you can also manage those POs. So you can come in here. This is a Builder Trend PO, right? It's been CC'd. It's the Builder Trend has actually been taken down, but this you can see this is exactly a PO that was Songwood. Theo was kind enough to let me use his account to demo this, but you can actually put the PO in here and pull a report by PO to be able to see if you want to match that supply invoice to a PO at a later date, right? It just helps you manage that. But the key is if you want to upload those receipts, or those supply invoices, the supply invoices you can forward to the inbox. If your suppliers are sending you paper invoices, phone them, email them. You need those digitized. We're in the future here. Someone that's sending you paper supply invoices, it doesn't work. So you've got to email them and say, hey, can you start emailing me those supply invoices as opposed to sending them over post. And then the trick, you're always going to have a challenge with receipt purchases and missing receipts for those purchases, right? So ideally, when you're doing your bookkeeping, you're attaching the paperwork to every single transaction, booking those transactions, and then you'll have a group of transactions that you don't have paperwork for. And you'll need to go chase those down or add them to a file that says missing receipts folder or whatever, and have those there and keep an eye on how hectic that's getting. But unfortunately, you know, receipts get lost. It happens. Your guys on site don't necessarily care as much as you do about making those purchases. But the best way is just obviously to keep track and ensure your team is trained on how to upload receipts to Level.
Okay. So someone that's not an admin can upload receipts on there too?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, then, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I've been doing it all, so that's good. Okay.
And they won't see any budget information like your non-admins, right? Non-admins will only be able to see the hours they've worked on a job, the receipts they've uploaded. They won't see anyone else's. They won't see any budget information. They can't edit the budget information. It's, you know, they can only add to jobs pretty much. There's nothing else they can do.
Okay. Good. So is there a video on that shoebox?
Yeah, so if you go to checkthelevels.com/walkthroughs, we've posted a whole bunch of walkthrough videos recently. There's this, yeah. So let me put it in the chat. Check the level.com/. It should work. Let me put it in the chat box. That didn't. In the chat. So yeah, that will be there, and I can also just email it to you, Mike. I'll do that right now.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions while I'm busy doing this?
I still have a question on that. So when I do like pay a credit card, okay, so there's always something on there that doesn't have a receipt. Like you said, we're chasing out receipts. So I just enter something in the level and just don't have the photo in there, but I can put the amount and whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to upload anything.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just have to get in that discipline and do that. Okay.
Yeah, alternatively, if your guys are having trouble with that, you could have them forward it to the email address, right? Like that's also another option.
Or to the shoebox?
Yeah.
You mean, or?
Yeah, to the shoebox email address.
I gotcha. Okay.
You can also batch upload that way, right? Like you could attach like 20 receipts, forward it to the shoebox, and it's going to separate each attachment.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out and see how that works.
What is the optimal timeline for progressive payments, bi-weekly or a dollar threshold? What do you mean by that, Hayes?
Yeah, I have projects that last 3-4 months, and then by the time they install stuff, it could be like 2 months after they'll start installing. Like we shipped a bunch of stuff for a museum, and it's been sitting in their warehouse for 3 months, and they're just starting to install it now. And so I'm waiting for my last 10% on that still, because it needs to be installed for them to give me a full complete whatever compliance. I'm able to release my lien then. But basically it's when should I be progressively billing them? Is it like right now I do in 3 stages, but when we're on projects that are $400,000 in 3 stages, it's stupid because we're in the hole. When that happens, it makes our cash flow really tight, especially because the first stage, like when I'm getting my first amount, it's when I'm drafting, the max I normally ever am able to convince a client is $50K, even on a $500,000 job. It's when do I do a threshold? Do I have should I create a bi-weekly amount? Like, hey, we worked on your project this much in the past 2 weeks, and I send them an invoice. It just seems like a lot of paperwork. or do I create a dollar threshold for the second we hit about 30, 40 K, then I just build them out accordingly, or 50, I don't know.
Why does creating a like an invoice every 2 weeks, why is that a lot of paperwork?
Because we're on up to like 35 jobs in 2 weeks.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you're managing multiple, so it's okay.
And some jobs, it's like I could invoice them for like, we'll only work on it for 5-6 hours in a week, in 2 weeks, and then I'm not going to bill them for that. It doesn't make sense to bill them $1,000 on a few $100,000 job. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So answering this it's pretty tricky because every job is different, right? And without job costing, I mean, once we get your job costing sorted through Level, from a cash flow perspective, so when we're tying in those jobs into your cash profit, we'll actually see that the true impact of your payment schedules and where the opportunities are to actually put another invoice payment or increase the deposit that you're asking. One way to think about this is to look at, what are the collection terms on your invoices? Is it net? Is it due on receipt, or is it like net 30, net 14?
Depends the fucking client. I have clients, no matter what, if I say due on receipt, they'll still fucking pay me in 30 days, or be like, you get paid when I get paid. Half of the GCs I deal with, because we're a sub, it's within 10 days of their payment on institutional projects, which is something that was always non-negotiable, especially when we're dealing with like the universities here and whatnot. So some of them get paid the fucking day we deliver and install, and their rep will sign off. Some of them need to request the architect to come visit, which will take up to 2 weeks. If they're on vacation, it'll be 4. Then they visit, then they do that, then they sign off, then we get our payment. And it's,
what's the deposit? How much do you typically ask for a deposit up front?
depends on the job. And
Again, okay. Yeah, it's different.
we're in the
What's
same shit show. So
Yeah.
like we have, in my head, we have 3 sizes of jobs. I have the jobs under 10 grand, which are stupid residential stuff, which is 100%, always 50% down, 50% the second I deliver it on site, no matter what, even if it's uninstalled, is 50%.
Okay.
That's my new thing with them. And some of that, I had a GC that's like, oh, I'll only issue a payment in this. I'm like, well, I know I'm going to take credit cards. I'm taking credit cards now. Like literally, I'm saying at my merchant accounts to take credit cards. So the GC will give me, no matter what, 100% of the project ahead of time as it goes on. And then he's able to bill his client quicker because he's like, yeah, I have a credit card payment to this because he needed it to be installed. I've figured that one out with a bunch of GCs here locally. They're able to work around that. But when we're dealing with we're dealing straight clients, I'm very stringent on the 50, 100%, under 110K. Saying we're at 50,000, I'm normally splitting into 3 payments. When we're above 100 up to 500, I try and do it in 50 grand chunks, but sometimes it ends up being 50 to 100, and then sometimes we're waiting on them for a few days or weeks or months.
And you pay employees every 2 weeks.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So you'd want to in that scenario, you might be better to look at invoicing every 2 weeks and trying to find automations to improve that. Because I mean, once you move to QuickBooks Online, you can create progress invoices really easy. If you have that toggled on, it's just literally 3 clicks and you can send the invoice, as long as the estimate's on QuickBooks.
All my estimates are currently in Xero, so if we transfer them into QuickBooks, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, the progress invoicing out of QuickBooks Online is really great. And if you want me to show you how that works, does everyone know how that feature works? Yeah, because I can do a quick walkthrough of how that works. Okay, if you want me to do a walkthrough, just say yes in the chat.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay, cool. Let me go. Let me just open this up quickly. Second. Okay, cool. So here's this demo account that I have. So, in in QuickBooks, you would always create your estimate. Something that's really important, guys. If you're using QuickBooks, QuickBooks has customers and sub-customers, right? Sub-customers are typically your projects, but you can also set them up as just sub-customers if you're not using the project feature. From a job costing perspective, the best way to have your customers set up is that you have a parent and then all your jobs or projects are customers or sub-customers, sorry. So it just allows you to actually use more of the job costing features within QuickBooks Online, and levels are also structured that way that you'll always have your customer is always the top tier. It could be the company name or it could be the customer. And then there's jobs assigned to that customer. And to see a demo of that, I could just say it's if I create a test, they've changed the interface here, but you would want to toggle this on and then assign it to whomever it should be belonging to.
So we're not creating estimates, we're basically creating sub-customers.
Well, you're gonna,
and each estimate would be a revision of that original estimate.
No, so I'm just showing you something else just to set up. This is just a caveat. So each estimate would be assigned to a sub-customer, not to a customer. So an estimate is assigned to a job, not to the actual customer, because the job is assigned to a customer. Yeah. So, I might choose a project here, whatever it is. I'm going to create an estimate. I'm going to choose, you don't need to put a service date in there. I'm just going to say it's sales. Hypothetically, let's just say this is, $1 million. I'm going to click save. It's going to create this estimate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click create an invoice. And then from here, it's going to ask you, hey, what percentage of this do you want to invoice out? So I can click here, I can click 50%, create invoice, and boom. Now I have an invoice of 50% of that estimate ready just to get sent. Now you have to turn this feature on.
Does it apply it against the original?
Yeah, it applies it against the original estimate. So when you go back to that estimate, it will show you that 50% of this estimate has been invoiced. Oh, it'll save you huge amounts of time. You can exit without saving. To turn this feature on, sometimes it's not turned on. You want to come into the settings, account settings. And I believe it's in sales. And yeah, progress invoicing. Make sure that this is toggled on. Create multiple partial invoice from a single estimate. Click save. And that.
Leroy, what would it look like if you go finish the billing on that? So if you collected, you're saying if you collected 50% deposit, you could bill it that way to keep it off your accounts receivable report, right?
No, so when you invoice it, invoices will hit your accounts receivable, estimates won't.
So if you invoice it 50%, are you invoicing the million or the 500,000?
The 500,000. And the 500,000 will show up in your AP. I mean your AR, your accounts receivable.
So how do you go and build? Do you do a separate invoice for the other 500, or can you just add that onto that invoice to keep it going like the original estimate was?
Yeah. So if I come into sales, so I'll walk through the whole thing. So okay, and you can do it by line, right? So I would come in here, I'd create an invoice, and I didn't save it last time, but let's hypothetically say I'm going to create an invoice for 50% of this. Again, always make sure that you'll know you have a sub-customer or a project if there's a semicolon in the name. So you should always have a semicolon here. I'd prepare the invoice. I'd add the customer's email if I want to send it that way. I hit save. And now the invoice is saved. And when I go into my AP, my AR, why do I keep saying AP for AR? So when I come into my AR now, there should be an outstanding invoice for 500K, right? So if I come into accounts receivable, there's that residential 500K outstanding. And that will also be reflected in your sales. Now, let's hypothetically say it's the end of the job. It's 6 weeks later. I need to issue an invoice out for this estimate. I can come back to sales. I can either go directly to the customer if I want, or I can come to the sales, come back to this estimate. I'll create an invoice. And then again, you can say the remaining total of lines, you can customize it. I'd say the remaining total because I want to invoice the other remaining 50%. It will create an invoice. And it will show you, okay, cool. Another 500,000 of that million's been invoiced. Hit save. And now you've got 2 invoices for that estimate. And you can break that down into progressively as well. Right? Another trick, guys, while we are here for the bookkeepers that are here, and you can actually see that this is linked to an estimate. And if I go to that estimate, it will say it should tell me, oh, well, it's not telling me, oh, it's closed. So everything's been invoiced. So you know it's closed. And it's linked to 2 transactions. So if you go to the original estimate, you can actually click on the link. QuickBooks is nice. It shows you when things are linked. So you can actually see all the invoices that have been sent out of this estimate, right? And you can go back and forth. Hey, it looks like you got a big smile on your face.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's much nicer. So another trick, like a common mistake I see in bookkeeping, and it causes havoc in your bank reconciliations, is you'll come in here and QuickBooks has these nice receive payment buttons here. Just a second, I want to let my cat out. I'm sorry. So back to what I was saying. So in QuickBooks, you'll have this receive payment here. Now, the problem is when you click this receive payment, what ends up happening is you apply a payment to an invoice and then you select what bank account that invoice needs to be applied to. Now, what QuickBooks does is it posts a transaction to your bank account and then it sits for you to wait to match that payment to a bank transaction, right? But the problem is you don't have a list of all the payments. The only way you actually see that list is through your bank rec. So to actually streamline the process, what you want to do when you apply a payment to a customer's invoice is you actually want to have your bank account. My bank account's not connected right now, but you want to go directly from the bank feed and then match it to the invoice. So you're skipping that whole step of, oh, okay, I've created a receive payment. Now I'm matching it to my bank transaction to a receive payment. Ignore the receive payment, rather go, hey, in the bank feed, I see the payment coming through. Let me match it directly through the bank feed. That's going to improve the likelihood of the accuracy of your data like wildly. Because when I look at most clients, the most common mistakes I see is that they've applied a receive payment to an invoice that hasn't been matched to a bank transaction. And what ends up happening also is you've now applied a payment to an invoice and it's not going to come up in your AR. It's going to look like it's paid and you have no idea whether it's been paid or not until someone goes and does a bank rec and goes, hey, here are like a list of 10 received payments that you've posted that actually didn't get received. Maybe it got bounced, right? Return to sender, not enough funds. So, from a bookkeeping standpoint, you can actually really improve the accuracy of your books if you're applying any payments. And that also goes for payments to suppliers, right? You want to match those payments to the bills in QuickBooks from the bank feed, not from the respective module. And if you're in the US, they call this vendors, not suppliers. But it's still the same thing. So you can see if you come to the invoices, you can click make payment here. And again, it's going to prompt you, hey, what bank account should I be applying this payment against? And, if you're not careful and doing your bank recs, you're going to miss this, right? And if for whatever reason, the client sent you a check and you've marked it as paid, but you haven't deposited that check. And when you go to deposit that check, it bounces. Like, how do you know it bounces, right? You won't necessarily know unless you're like watching your bank account all the time. You can avoid that if you if you're managing your payments through QuickBooks in that manner. So
Does that clear it out in the actual invoice page too? Like you don't have to put receipt payment at all anymore? if you do that?
Yeah. But I mean, Mike, you're on our bookkeeping, so we do that for you. That's how we
Right.
do it, right? That's how we
Okay.
prevent any errors from happening. You're actually applying the payment through Level, and then we see which invoices that we need to apply it to. So then we go in here and book the payment
Okay,
accordingly.
I don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about
Okay.
this. You're in good hands. You got a good bookkeeper.
The best.
For contractors specifically. Yeah, anyway. Cool. Let's see what else is coming up here. But does anyone else have questions? Regarding Here's a question from Colin regarding project management fees. Ideally, how should this be figured in a quote, i.e. included in the profit percentage, overhead, or as its own line item?
Colin took off, but I can receive that info for him, I guess.
Okay. So Jeffrey, are you charging like time and material, or is this just like a fixed or?
Well, this is an item that we had originally in labor expenses, I think. And I think this is that, well, I think that basically if the owners are managing the project, it comes out of profit and shouldn't even be a line item. If we have professional managers, then that's a different story. You've got to have their hourly in there and what's on site.
Yeah.
I guess he's wanting some justification for that. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's two ways to sort of look at this. One, right, if you are putting your project management hour, like if your project management salary, or there's a project management like time allocation to this job,
yeah.
One way to look at it is actually coming out with an hourly rate for your project managers. So you say, okay, well, hey, this job is going to take 60 project management hours.
Yeah.
And my charge out rate per project management hour is what, $100, $150. Most homeowners won't necessarily blink an eye at that, because what you pay a lawyer $350 an hour. So like, and what that does now is you can actually come out with an hourly rate for project managers that includes overhead, right? So okay, I pay my project manager $100,000 a year, which equates to about $50 an hour. I might actually add some overhead to that too in my profit goals, so that I can, bump that up to whatever it is, like $100, $150. There's project in there, and you can also cover some of the costs. If you want, it's worth an experiment, right? Like if you come up with all those costs, say, okay, on top of that, I'm going to put a 10% management fee on the total cost of the job. I've seen some contractors do that. So you're sort of double dipping in profit. It's worth trying that with a homeowner to see if there's any pushback or not. But normally speaking, like if you see, they're charging me $100 an hour for the project manager, that makes sense. Like no one's really gonna blink an eye at that, right? And when you come up with your hourly rate, so for a project manager, what you'll want to do is you'll go, okay, so there's 52 weeks in a year, depending on whether you pay, they work 37.5 hours a year. So that's minus obviously the lunch a week. So it's 37.5 hours a week, because you're removing the lunch, times that by 52. So there's effectively 1,950 working hours a project manager has in a year. But the reality is they're not going to be working fully on that job. They're going to be dealing with admin. There's going to be vacation. They're going to get sick leave, whatever the case may be. Job sites might be delayed. You'll want to come up with an efficiency rate there where it's like, okay, that truly they're actually only working 80% of the year on billable stuff, or, I've seen as far as going down to 65%. So what ends up happening is you've got, like hypothetically, let's just say we go on the extreme end and we say 65%. So we got times 0.65. That means there's, 1,300 hours that is billable that a project manager works. If their salary is $100,000 and their labor burden or their indirect taxes on that is around, like, let's just say 15%, all in, like a project manager is going to cost you $115,000. So you take that $115,000, you divide it by 1,300 hours, and then your hourly charge out rate, excluding any overhead or anything like that, any other costs, would be $88, right? Like that's the cost of a project manager to you on that job.
Sure.
I spoke really quickly there, but I hope you'll watch the recording again when I ran through it. But
Yeah.
That's one way you can do it, is look at it from an hourly rate perspective on a
Mhm.
PM.
Yeah, I don't think his question was so much how to calculate what an hourly rate for project management. It's just if we are owners who are managing the project, should that even be an item in there, or should that just be somewhere in accounted for in profit for the job?
Yeah, it depends. If the owner's role, if you as the owner are project managing the job, like, hey, like that's your salary, right? Like that's what you could put in there. And
Yeah.
it's helpful if you put in like, the market rate for a PM. And then what you do is you split your salary between the PM rates and any net profit that you take at the end of the year, right? So you could say, okay, well, I pay myself 140K a year.
Right.
80K of that comes through the project management hourly fee, and then the other 40, whatever, the 60K comes through the net profit. Because when you price these jobs as an owner, what you should be thinking about is, especially for the guys that are still small time, like on the tools, like Michael as well. I know you're one. If you're running the business and you're on the tools.
Mhm.
When you price these things, what you want to do is think of, okay, if I had to hire someone, how much would they cost?
Right.
You factor that cost into the estimate, and that portion becomes, a contribution towards your total salary. Whereas the other remaining portion, because that's you doing the administration, would be considered overhead. So you've actually got to split it between direct costs and overhead in a reasonable way. If you are on the tools or in production or a project manager.
Right.
Leroy, would another good option be almost a trial and error, but looking at your essential data? So say you have a $500,000 project, your project manager should in fact be clocking in for every management hour that they have. And then you should be able to look back at all your projects and say, on a $500,000 project, how many hours did it take for this manager to manage that project? Which then you can use moving forward as kind of an hourly rate. Like we estimate based off of past data that a $500,000 project would actually cost X amount for your project manager based off of real data that you've used.
Yeah. I mean, that's just part of the, back to what I was saying to Jeffrey, where it's like, okay, how many hours is this job going to take you? You're effectively doing what it sounds like you're doing. What I'm saying is like, okay, well, I'm estimating that this project manager is going to spend X hours on this job.
Yeah.
This is the rate that I apply to him on average.
And even as an owner, you should still clock in, even though you are an owner and you're on salary, but you should still clock in to have those management hours tracked.
Yeah, ideally. But I know, as owners, it's sometimes difficult to do the clock in, clock out thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is we have almost two roles. Like he does project management, I do design, specification, and sales.
Yeah.
And clocking in on sales hours doesn't really work that well, because some clients, it's like, here's the checkbook, I'm going to Hawaii, make my place look fabulous. And they're out in 10 minutes. I don't have enough of those clients, but still. And other clients, it'll be literally 2 days figuring out just the right paint color for their cabinet so that it'll match some sort of China pattern. And there we go there.
You can detail a lot of that in your contracts too, though, right? Like you can basically say like this is what your management hours cover, anything extra, or if you take X amount of time extra to that, will be billed at this amount. Yeah. So it's a matter of you just kind of protecting yourself so that you can urge your clients to really not take 24 to 48 hours to pick a paint color. You're like, hey, we need to have this paint color picked by before we even start this project in the design fee or the design consultation, right? If they don't pick it by then you can put in a term and condition in your contracts to basically say anything that is extra after the design will be billed at X amount.
Yeah, and I think that works well for outliers or stuff like, obviously, well, not obviously, but I haven't really spent like 2 days picking out the paint color. But what I am saying is some designs, man, it takes 3 or 4 times longer to come up with something that works for space than some designs. So it's just very variable. Whereas maybe project management might be a little bit more consistent, but we've decided that it sort of averages out in terms of how much time I spend versus how much time he spends. Maybe I'll start, being a little bit more relentless and tracking exactly what my hours and time is.
Yeah, and you don't have to do that for a whole year, right? Like it could be just a month, right? Like
Sure.
another way you could estimate it is through your calendar. If you're strict about creating events in your calendar, you're like, okay, this time is dedicated for whatever. Like then you can go look back at your calendar and go, okay, in this month, this is how much time I spent on this, and you could actually get like a rough estimate. The key with this is it doesn't need to be perfect, but there needs to be at least some science behind it, because a little bit of science is better than nothing. But then you can always progress from there.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah. I started using Motion for that, and now it automatically links to all my to-do lists to my calendar and creates tasks for everything, because I wasn't that diligent in tracking time. Now it actually helps.
Nice.
No, any other questions? How's a couple more minutes here? Through the chat. Guys, any other questions? I'm just trying to read through the chat to see if anyone's asked anything else, but do feel free to speak up in the meantime. Ooh.
With change orders, does it make sense when the change order is submitted that pay upon receipt?
Yeah, 100%. Change orders, the job site should stop. Invoices, like if a change order is being processed, the job site should stop. The change order should be approved and paid up front.
Yep.
That's best. Yeah, that's best practice. Something else worth mentioning, Adam's done this on his level, which I thought was really cool, is if you are using Level, you could add a change order Google form as a text note, right? You can hyperlink a Google form change order request form as a text note in Level. So, if your guys are on site and they need to request a change order, they can just click on that change order Google form, submit a request, and then whomever's in the office just needs to keep an eye on that. That was a really good idea that I saw Adam implement.
Yeah, we also have a template that basically when the guys are on site doing the hour and material cost, we take that directly and put it into our quoting formula, which adds our markup and margins and everything to it, and then digitally send that to the client by DocuSign and get a signature within less than 24 hours.
That's a beautiful system.
Can you put that hyperlink just in the text notes under the project?
Leroy, you want me to share my level real quick so they can see it?
Yeah, shoot.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Am I still sharing my screen? I can get lost. Cool. Here we go.
Screen 3. Jesus fuck, too many screens. You guys see this real quick? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, this cannot see your screen. Okay, great. It's easier to see text notes from the phone, like when they see the text note, like it's a section, but on here it's not. So then we have this. So then they have this, the hyperlink here, they would click it, goes to this change order sheet, scroll down, submit the information, submits, and then it goes to our office. and goes from there. So
One other trick, Adam, to pin stuff to the top, like text notes on the web, is if you change if you set the date into the future, so you like set it into 2023, it'll actually move the text note to the top of the list.
let's try that.
Yeah. So if you change that, like just click multiple times and just select just select a date now. And hit save. Now it will go straight to the top. That's how you
Amazing.
can pin it. Yeah.
Like we also have a daily report form that's linked here as well by Google that goes in, and then we upload them. You can kind of see, so all the daily reports are uploaded.
No, that's
Do you have them? Are you automatically uploading them, or how are they getting uploaded?
I have a project coordinator at the end of every day, gets the report, puts it into a PDF format, and then uploads it. It takes them like 5 minutes.
Okay. And then other question for you, your daily report and your change order forms, are they individual per project or are they just global forms?
So the daily report is individual per project. We just copy the template and put it in the Google Drive folder. So if I go to the Google Drive folder here, which is a link there, we can go into the daily report folder here. Internet work.
You had an MRI machine.
Is that me making that background noise or somebody else?
Someone's at an MRI.
So you can see like all of these are here, right? Into our projects. And then for the change order form, I always have to do it this way where I just have to look at the SOP. Because this is linked to, so when they submit this, we have an SOP in our team project folder on level, we have the SOP change order form, so everybody knows how to do it. And then the form is there, and then there is the document that it goes to, which our admin gets all the information from here. Oh, sorry, that's the one change order. I might have to change that, but anyway, there's a link in this folder that brings me to the change order thing. She deals with all of that, and then we just sign off on it. And then in our quoting templates that we have, that's where you get all the margins and markups so that you can submit it online. But we put it in the DocuSign, send it to the client for electronic signature. As soon as that happens, we get it back. We put on the chat function here. In the chat function, she'll write, "Hey, change order is approved." So maybe there's one in here, maybe there's not. But this, yeah. So big old change order has been approved and uploaded. So then the entire team knows the change order is approved. We can start the change order work.
Yeah. Cool.
Leroy and I spent the better part of a couple of weeks kind of going through and helping me master level a little bit. So yeah. I'm happy to help anybody if you need it.
And soon we'll have the sub projects linked. Adam, our team's working on that. So we're hoping in the next 2 weeks it's going to be released. So
for anybody that's using Level, when you do the sub project section, you can build a whole renovation and have it built out like site prep, drywall, paint, demo, and then you can input all of your information into each one of those sub projects. Eventually, it'll all tally up to the parent project, so you can really dive in to see where you're making money and where you're not. And if you're like, oh, why am I doing demo in house when I'm never making any money on it? Then you can eventually say, I'm not doing demo in house anymore because we don't make money. We'll just sub it.
Hayes, is anyone on your team? So you've got some active jobs moving forward, right? Like you guys are putting the hours in for those active jobs. I know you want to look at historical stuff, and we're going to look at that for you. But like moving forward, are the jobs that you're currently working on, is the data being put into Level?
Right now, it's being entered in manually. So basically, I have Victoria typing up all our daily reports and shoving them in there. Realistically, I would love to just do a CSV import because I could send you a CSV at the end of every day or at the end of every week. We have 12 employees to track across up to 7 jobs a week.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to know. Yeah, I want to know how many entries that is. And
yeah, that's a problem. So like you're talking about like 70 some odd entries. And it's just fucking slow to do it all manually. I feel bad for Victoria, and like she has to go through about like 2,000 right now. So I told her, I'm like, set it up in global spreadsheets like per job right now and sort it like that, and then just upload them in as one giant fucking entry per department. That's kind of where I went with her. And
Because the important thing that's going to happen, and one of our GCs was, some of you might have seen this already, but from that question of yours, like when and like how do I set up my scheduling? The goal is, what we want to get you to a point is, these scoreboards are coming out at the end of this month. We're aiming, once two-way sync comes out, but effectively this will tell you your financing on a job, right? Like here, this massive dip basically means, okay, something happened here. You maybe should have asked for, you should have invoiced it earlier so that you didn't have to get into a position where you had $27,000 of your own money tied up into this job. So this is what I want to get to you. What's also cool is I've toggled on this accrual, so you can actually see like your, when something was invoiced versus when it was paid. So we can actually get a deep dive in terms of like, how long are these customers actually taking to pay you, right? The accrued profit happens always before the cash profit, but ideally it should be happening at the same time. So you'll get, we'll be able to get visibility in terms of like, hey, this is when you're financing job costs, and maybe we should start adding another, upfront deposit. You will also be able to assess it by customer. And what's also cool is one of the things we also want to look at doing is ensuring that you maintain a specific level of cash on, like a cash profit on the project, so you have sufficient cash to pay overhead, right? Because it should never really be zero, and it should be on like a minimum threshold that this job should always have cash on hand for you to pay overhead.
Does this show overhead too, or is this only job expense?
This is only gross profit. So this is all production. So like if we had to break this down, you could like, this is a GC. So you can see how much like you're spending on each of these like scopes of work. We can get this set up for you, but when I analyze any construction business, it's always based on, there's two parts of it. There's the production and the overhead. We need to understand whether the production is generating cash to cover overhead. So the first problem, like, the problem that we're trying to tackle first is because most of the contractors that we speak to just don't know where their money is, and they don't know how much they're financing their job costs by. And get visibility into that first. It's going to help you structure your payment schedules. It's going to make you feel so much more confident on sales calls, because now if you don't get a 50% deposit, you're going to be financing these job costs because the data is telling you that that's happening. So when you go into the sales call and someone's trying to nickel and dime you on a deposit, you can go, no, because I know my data is telling me that if I do this, I'm losing money. Which is what I like. That's what I'm super excited about. And that level of reporting is not available anywhere else, right? You can't get that anywhere.
I don't think people even know what the fuck to look for.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that important until I fucking run into issues like now. It's like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Leroy, I got a question. I was just looking through, I just changed over my QuickBooks to that progress invoicing because I used to have jobs sitting in my AR and I just tried to push the date out so it wouldn't pull up like they owed me money right now. So how do I see like estimates that have been accepted? So I marked it as accepted and I've attached a partial invoice to it. How do I pull a report to show what estimates I have that are accepted that have partial, just so like if for whatever reason our CRM had a hiccup, I could use my QuickBooks to find out what open jobs per se that we have.
Just give me a second. Let me see. Okay, cool. This is how you do it. Give me a second. So if you come to reports, there's a section called estimates and progress invoicing summary by customer. You can click this. I'm not sure if there'll be anything in here right now, but here you'll be able to see, whoop, I just tripped out. There you'll be able to see like all your outstanding, like what is the estimate amount, what was invoiced, percentage invoiced. So all of these are 100%, but if you go back to that report list, you'll have to have the specific QuickBooks version for this, but you'll want to see estimates and progress invoicing summary by customer.
Yep, I see it there. Thank you.
Cool, and just mark it as a favorite so it's at the top.
Yep.
All right, this was a really great session, guys. I loved all the questions. I loved the engagement. I hope everyone's excited for busy season. It's coming. If it started for some of us already. So yeah, until 2 weeks from now, we'll touch base again soon.
Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Leroy.
No problem.
Thanks, Leroy.